Welcome to the 71st episode of the GameFor Podcast. In this episode, we'll talk about the possible futures of the brick-and-mortar tabletop gaming store. I'm Adam.
And I'm Matt.
And this is the GameFor Podcast. GameFor is a platform to help connect tabletop gamers and to help you get more out of your tabletop gaming. Matt and I are part of a software development and design company called Milk Can. And because most of the folks at Milk Can love tabletop games, we developed the GameFor app and launched it in early 2018. We launched this companion podcast in June 2019 to help tabletop gamers get more enjoyment out of their hobby. Due to the COVID-19 global pandemic, we hibernated the GameFor app in July of 2020 and plan to bring back a retooled version of the app for Android, iOS, and web when gaming in person is safer. Until then, we'll keep bringing you this podcast to help you get more out of your tabletop gaming. I think I read through that without any glitches this time. That's something.
Yay.
There you go. Indeed.
Look at you.
I know. Yeah, well, it's 71 episodes in. We should hopefully start heading in there eventually. How are you?
Any episode now.
What's that?
I said any episode now.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime soon. That'd be great. How's your hobby been going? You got any hobby time? Anything hobby things done?
Not as much as I want. I've thought about hobbying a lot, but I've been kind of busy. Real work has kept me fairly busy. We're trying to get a release out for FDA clearance, so I've spent many a time doing most of that. But I did get a little bit more painting on with Blood Orcs
Black Orcs.
My Black Orcs for Blood Bowl. That's the words I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I did get my new air paint in from Army Painter. I didn't order the mega set, but I did this next level down, the triads and all that stuff. But
yeah, the triads are really nice actually. That's really nice for when you're airbrushing stuff because you've got this kind of lower color and what they call I think a base and then a mid and then a high.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Yeah. So no, I'm looking forward to that. Got a couple of nice cases off of the Amazons that they fit in very nicely. So they are ready to go. And they came with the balls already, the mixing balls already in them, which was nice. Because the skin tones and the metallics, they came with the balls, but you had to open each one up and put them in. So this was nice that they're already pre-added.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that, and then been getting a lot more 3D prints going and out the door. So that's nice.
Yeah.
I've got one more that's giving me trouble with yours, but other than that is done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's me. How about you?
Well, let's see. I've been working on the Skaven warband that I've been doing for a while now on Twitch. The rats, indeed, and I'm doing them for Warcry. So at this point, I've got 11 finished clan rats, which are the normal troops. I did finish the leader, who's known as the Grey Seer. He's done, and then I have a Warlock Engineer. Who Monday night I just finished his base on stream. I don't normally paint bases on stream, but I was doing other stuff, so I did that. Finished that up, and then so he's all done. And then I've been also working on this. It's called a warp fire thrower, but it's actually 2 rats on a single base. One guy's got a big tank on his back, and then there's a hose that goes to a nozzle, and the guy in the front, he gets to shoot out the warp fire or whatever.
Nice.
And so they're I would say 2/3 done. I'm pretty close to, But then the last model in that group is called a Storm Fiend, who is this humongous kind of weird robot rat and everything like that. So he's built and primed and ready to go, but I haven't even laid the first lick of regular paint on him yet. So I'm going to get that started after I get this Warpfire guy done. So
nice.
Still got some more streams full of Skaven. And then after that, I'm probably going to go into those Khorne Bloodbound guys for Warcry as well. So been keeping busy with that. Off stream, I've been working on some models that I am working on for a different project, and I've been texturing their bases. They're 3D prints that I got off of Etsy, and but they're they didn't come with bases. Well, some of them came with bases, but other ones didn't. So I had to kind of go through and mess with them, and I'm just adding some kind of like just simple texture. I'm not making them look like they're standing outside. I'm trying to make them a little bit more like they're standing in, like a sci-fi type environment or something like that, maybe a
Okay.
little bit. But I don't know. We'll see how it. The thing is that some of the bases, because they're already molded and they're like, I don't know if they're supposed to be like spaceship deck or whatever, but they're very sci-fi looking. And then the other bases I'm making, I would say, less sci-fi looking. So I don't know. We'll see how they match up. It's not super important, but I would like them to match. And then I also cleaned some of the basement with the help of my lovely wife. We cleaned out kind of one corner relatively well. Found a bunch of old crazy stuff that was left behind by her grandparents, because we bought the house from her grandparents. So that's kind of fun as well. But yeah, that's pretty much about it as far as that's concerned.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been not too bad. So can you hear the cat meowing?
Yep. I thought it was a kid at first.
No, it's Carlson. I don't know what he's going on about. Carlson, simmer down. Go take a nap. I don't know what he's doing. He was in a fight with his sister for a bit there too. I don't know what that's all about. All right.
Silly cats.
Carlson. What are you doing? Here, go. Okay. All right, great. All right. So, what have we got going on otherwise with the app and all kinds of stuff like that? We are soon to be going to Reno.
Yes, Reno, Nevada. For the GAMA trade show.
Game Manufacturers Game Manufacturers Association.
Yeah.
I don't know why that first A is in there. It should be the GMA. It's driven me nuts for years. But yeah, so it's the Game Manufacturers Association, spelled GAMA. Their trade show, yes. The Reno, the Gamma Expo is what's the specific name for it. How many times have we gone? Is this our fourth?
It's at least the fourth.
Really? Well, we went 2018. Did we go 2018? Yes, we went 2018, and then 2019, and then 2020. Right.
Pandemic.
There was no 2021. Yeah, this would be a fourth. Yep. Cool.
Okay. So 5 years.
We've got a booth.
Times.
144 is our booth number.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think so. We're across the aisle from Battlephone. And just down a little ways from TurboDork. And so that'll be good. We'll be there. The convention is actually March 14th to the 18th. So we'll have to try to make sure that we don't have a podcast that's supposed to be coming out that week.
I think we checked that we don't, or maybe we did. We said we would record Monday because we don't leave till late that day. But
that's true. Yeah. It'll be fine. But we just got to make sure we're on, or we got our stuff together. But yeah, so that's going on, and we will be talking to publishers. We'll be talking to store owners and all kinds of different things like that. That's why you go to this convention. And
industry people.
Exactly, industry folks. Because we're not only looking towards, obviously bringing back the GameFor podcast, or sorry, we already had the GameFor podcast, the GameFor app. We're looking at bringing that back hopefully in the summer. But we're also, we've been doing work with different tabletop gaming companies like Battlefoam, like I mentioned, companies like Renegade Studios, companies like The Op, and things like that. So, been doing websites and companion apps and all kinds of stuff. So,
hopefully grow that.
It'll be weird to go back because we haven't been there. Like last time we were there, it was like the pandemic was just like people were just hearing about COVID because it was like we literally got back and then next week was when lockdown started.
Lockdown kind of started as we were going back.
Was it?
Yeah, NHL was canceled halfway through the show. And
right, but I mean I think we worked in the office another week.
Schools were.
Was it that fast?
Closed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was because
we flew. I remember we flew back on what's it called? Friday the 13th. It was Friday the 13th of March because I remember. Oh, good, we're flying on Friday the 13th. Great. So I do remember that. But yeah, and so there wasn't one. So now we'll be back, but there'll be masks and all that kind of stuff and everything. So it'll be a different thing, but it's still in the same location, still in Reno. I think
although restrictions might lift by then. I saw that a bunch of them are starting to lift. Like the UK just lifted all theirs today or something like that.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, I know. I think that I did read somewhere that, and I don't know, one of the posts they were talking about, like it's going to be a situation where, you still need to wear masks because the resort says so, but that may change, or so it's
Right.
constantly in flux. We see that, like Lord knows, if you look at the charts for cases and stuff, they've been plummeting, which is great. It's a great direction to be going. So we'll see, but let's hope. But yeah, so it's gonna be nice to see people we haven't seen in a couple of years.
Yeah.
That'll be really great.
Yeah, we'll be talking
Um,
the GameFor Library Manager, which is
Yep.
new.
Mhm. Mhm.
The new 2.0 version, which we're working on.
Of
We've got
regular old Game
this,
4.
yeah, we've got our survey that should be posted by the time this goes live.
Yeah, we mentioned that survey last episode that we wanted to get people's opinions on stuff and things like that, and so that'll be live. It's in the show notes, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, it'll be in the description. We'll also post it on social and stuff like that, or like our Facebook and our Twitter. But yeah, so if you get the chance, definitely fill out the survey. It's not crazy long. It's not like super super short, but it's I don't know. I think what is it? Something like I don't know, maybe a dozen question max.
Yeah, it depends on depending on what you answer and how you answer. There's a couple of questions that you have to
Right.
answer or not to answer.
There's
But
like there's like a
yeah,
question where like if you say yes, I have gone to local conventions, then we'll ask you some questions about that. But if you say no, I never have, well then you'll skip those questions. So it's
right.
variable length that way.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
yeah, and hopefully that helps. Yeah, it's mainly questions that we've asked ourselves as we've been designing stuff and stuff that
hmm
we've had people ask us,
hmm
as far as advertisers and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that that is it.
So that'll be cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we might give a little bit more details in some of our meetings while we're there about the new Game 4 product coming
hmm
this summer too. So
hmm Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So things are moving along. Absolutely. So today's topic, we're talking about brick and mortar gaming stores and what their future looks like. We had a
Ooh, on the
commenter
clouds.
on the cloud. There you go. Yeah, on the blockchain. God no.
Yes.
We had a commenter ask about like, oh well, what about like talking about what game stores will look like and it was like 10 years from now or 15 years from now or something like that, and we were like, well, I mean that's very specific, but the concept of what the future holds for tabletop gaming stores,
Hmm.
or what tabletop gaming stores will look like in the future, your FLGS, your friendly local game store, that actually seemed kind of interesting. So we've kind of done a bit of research and read some different threads in different places and kind of came up with some concepts and whatnot. And it's not so much it's going to be kind of straddling the line. We're going to talk about things that stores need to do to
Hmm.
stay in business, aka be in business in the future. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But we're also going to talk a little bit about different things, different features, whatever, that kind of stuff. That could be also, things that you're going to find.
Moving sidewalks through the store.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be one-piece jumpsuits made out of silver material and teleporters. Maybe
Oh,
in the far, far future, but that's unfortunately, I'm not thinking Star Trek. I'm thinking just
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we're not going that.
we're not like the year 2000.
Right, exactly. The future Conan. Right. So yeah. So brick and mortar stores that in the future, one thing that they probably did to get there is keep surviving through, against online sales, crowdfunding stuff, and things like that crop up, which a lot of store owners and things like that look at as being obviously troublesome, which we get.
Hmm.
Things change, and you have to be able to adapt with those things. But it might also not be stores that are open now. It might be stores that open in the future. There are people that
Ooh,
will tell you, I don't know if you should open a store these days, but there are other people that'll tell you now's a great time to open a store. But it kind of depends on, I guess, on how you as the store owner, maybe the store manager, that kind of stuff, like how, like what kind of ideas you have for,
yeah.
what's going to go
Your
on in your
SWOT
store.
analysis, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Getting into that's the thing, and we've talked about this a bunch of times. There are a lot of store owners who are not business people, and
Yeah.
that is troublesome. That makes it hard. And then there are store owners that are, they're gamers as well, just like those ones that aren't necessarily
Hmm.
business people, but they also have a decent mind for business, and they are the ones that have a tendency to do well generally and expand and all kinds of stuff like that. But in the past, it was a lot easier, I think, for a store owner to not be a business person because, well, where else
Right.
was the
You
person going to
just
get their
Yeah,
games,
you
right?
just hang up your shingle, and everybody comes to your store to buy their Magic cards.
Exactly, exactly. And now that's not exactly the case. Um, so I think one of the things that your stores in the future that are successful, the ones that still keep surviving, one of the things they're first or foremost, they're going to keep their customer base engaged and involved.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to a situation if you want to buy a game, like we were just saying, you don't have to go to a game store to do it. You could go
Right.
online. But there's a lot of things the game store can provide that the onlines can't.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? Um, so these stores in the future are going to have to keep their customer base engaged and involved. And one of the ways, well, many of the ways that you do something like that, having a decent inventory of popular games. Now, if you have the ability to have popular and I don't want to say unpopular games because that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to buy unpopular games?
More
But
niche
like,
games.
yeah, exactly. You get your popular normal stuff, your Catans, your Carcassones, your tickets to rides, all that kind of stuff. You could, you obviously you want to have those things in stock. So when someone comes in and is like, oh, I keep hearing about this Settlers of Catan, you'd be like, well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously want that, and there's a lot of ways that as a store owner, you can take a look at the BGG top or Hot 100 or whatever it's called, the hot list, or there's a lot of things where you can know very easily, oh, this is actually a lot of people are interested in this. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
should carry a copy or two of this in my store, depending on the size of your store and how it goes. And so that's something to really keep an eye on. But then also sometimes the niche stuff is also, important as well. But obviously you can't carry all the niche stuff because Lord
Right.
knows how many is it? Something like, I think that I read an article about 200,000 new board games come out every day, something like that. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
that.
that's way down from what I've heard.
Oh, oh, really? Okay. Well, that's yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of new games that come out every single day, and we've talked about this in the past about because it's so much simpler to produce certain types of
Mm-hmm.
games. Um, like RPGs that basically are a book or a PDF. There's lots and lots of options
Right.
for that. Same thing for miniatures games where you're basically just selling a book maybe and some STLs or whatever. Like there's all these different things. So publication has gotten easier, so therefore there's a lot more stuff out there, and so therefore there's potentially a lot more stuff for you to have to carry in your store. So I think balancing a good store owner can understand the balance between the popular games and maybe the more niche stuff, and it also
Yeah.
sometimes depends on your area.
Right. Or just even if they just make it really easy to request something to be ordered in. I know that like my local game store doesn't have everything, but if I ask them, like they'll usually try to get it in pretty quickly and then just let me know. So
Yeah, a lot of things that I was reading, like 'cause I was doing some reading of some different, like like Reddit threads and stuff like that, which are not necessarily always the rosiest of places. But but there were people saying, like if I go into my local store and I go, hey, I'd like to buy this, and they're like, well, we can order it. The current response from the people, like at least in your head, hopefully you don't say this
mm,
directly to the store owner, is like, well, yeah, so can I can also order it, but you know what I mean.
yeah.
And that's difficult, but obviously you also can't keep everything in stock either. So
Right. Or they might
you
give
know,
you like they're like, oh, but we can give you, like if they have like your buyer discount or
hmm
like
hmm
pre-order discounts or stuff like that,
yeah.
then
So there is a definite benefit. If like every time you go into the store to buy something, it's something that they don't have and they're going to keep, they have to like order it. Well, then
right.
that's maybe a problem on their end or something. Maybe they're focusing too much on the niche and not enough on the popular, or who knows? Or you're just asking for some really, odd stuff.
Hmm.
But, if again, if it comes down to a situation of you being able to buy it online or you being able to buy it from your local store, which you like to go to and you want them to stay open, and also they maybe have like a loyalty rewards program or something like that, which we'll
Hmm.
mention later on, then that's a benefit. But the big important thing of keeping the customers in this situation involved and interested and engaged is obviously like a decent inventory. If they come in there to
Hmm.
not buy stuff, well, or if they come in there to try to buy stuff and they can't, that's going to be a problem.
Right.
Beyond that, then we're going to start talking about things like large clean, uncluttered gaming areas for all different types of games. Sometimes you'll have a store that's just a Magic store. That's what they'll, everyone kind of just is like, well, yeah, they sell this and that and the other thing and whatever, but it's basically just a Magic store. And if you go there to play Magic, you're happy as a clam, right? But the other folks who might be interested in trying to go to the store, maybe not so much. So, the bigger stores that I've been to in the past that have been popular, obviously successful stores, do have a big gaming area that is available for not just your collectible card game stuff, but also maybe they'll have like those little kind of side rooms even sometimes for RPGs. And the whole reason, because the point is always like, well, I could just play these games at home. Why do I need to go to the store? Well, because sometimes, and this is a big benefit of the game store, a popular, like a successful game store, especially in the future, is that this is a place I can go and play games with folks that maybe I kind of know from online, or maybe I kind of met there, or maybe even I met them at the store. And we talked about this a bunch with the GameFor app. When you're going to get together and meet somebody from the looking for players section, it's a good idea to meet them at the game store because it's a public place and it's safe. And you may make a new friend, but you may not necessarily want these folks over to your house right away or whatever. So being able to have a place you can go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, neutral spot, or I know that back in the day when I had young kids and early bedtimes, if I wanted to play past 6 o'clock at night, it was nice to have someplace else to game. That was quiet and not, you don't get as many distractions. You don't have dogs and cats running about and
indeed
allergies.
Sure. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. We've got cats. So if you were to come over to our house and if you're allergic to cats, well then hopefully you can take a pill or something. I mean, I'm allergic to cats, so I have to take a pill, but yeah, so it's one of those deals where it's like having a neutral kind of place that's centrally located or not, depends on where you're coming from, but also like depending on the game too. Like sometimes you need terrain and stuff like that, and maybe the store's got a good supply of that kind of stuff for your space, miniatures game or whatever,
or try out new games.
Well, that's the thing too, is that also like a game library area, or a game library of whatever kind. Like a lot of stores now are having demo copies of games, so you could come in and try out a game that maybe you're going to end up buying or something like that. You know what I mean? We've also, you and I think both have talked to, I interviewed her, I remember back in the early days of GameFor, but there's a woman that runs a store in Sheboygan or Manitowoc. I can't ever remember. Her name is Lynn, I believe. Anyway, she came up with this whole kind of concept of game rental. So, you come into the store, you say, I would like to rent this game, and then you take it home and you play it for a bit or whatever, and then you can bring it back and purchase it if you want to. And she had this whole sort of kind of system for something like that, which makes a ton of sense. It's a really great, because it's a try before you buy kind of situation, which, because there's so many different board games out there, sure, you can go online, you can watch some maybe, reviews or listen to a podcast about it or something like that. But it is a situation where it's not a bad idea to maybe take this home and try it and keep it for a while, and then maybe it's not right for our family or my group of friends or whatever. So then you can return it, and again, it's a rental situation. And then the next person can come by and rent it later on. And eventually somebody buys it. I believe it was at a discount. That was part of the deal. But that, like having a system like that, really makes your store much more attractive than buying online, Yeah. Let's see here. What else have we got? Well, gaming events. We pushed pretty hard, obviously, on gaming events with GameFor. That's a big portion of the idea behind it. And stores that have gaming events and schedule things, whether it's beyond just like Friday Night Magic or whatever, that kind of stuff. Those are the stores that get more people, more butts and seats, frankly. And it's a bunch of work. It is. You're. Like, what do you think the percentage is? And I don't have the answer here. Both of us would be guessing. What do you think the percentage is out there of friendly local game stores that have literally one employee and it's the owner? I feel like it's probably at least 50%.
You really think it's still that? I don't.
Really?
I was gonna go like 10%. Like, I think it's gone way down.
Well, the smaller stores are all basically that way for the most part. I think still, I mean, like every once in a while you might get a store that's got like an owner and one employee, but very frequently the bigger, more successful stores, you and I know this just from the stores in our local area, they do have multiple employees and managers and
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah. But I think that especially with the smaller stores out there, there's still a lot of them where it's a one person show, maybe two. And when you've
Yeah.
got to be the person who orders the games and stocks the games and also cleans the bathroom and also tries to set up all the events and stuff like that, it's pretty tough, you know?
Order inventory. Yeah. Yep.
All that.
Speak to people. Yep.
Restock the snacks, you know? So, it's in my opinion, going forward, specifically if you want to be able to compete as a store against the online folks, being the place where I can sit and play these events, you can buy a bunch of cool miniatures and stuff like that from some online retailer. But if you want to then sit down and play, you either need to get people to come over to your house or go over to their house. So hopefully you have friends that play the game. But if you don't, then you need to go find somebody who's running the game event or something like that at a local shop, whether it's a tournament, whether it's just a casual play night or whatever, like that type of thing. And it's the same with, board games. You get your family involved, depending on what your family's particular, like interest is in board games. But, other people are kind of important in this hobby. And, the game store is really still the hub, Amazon is not, so that's really kind of the important thing, I think, as far as the future is concerned for stores that want to keep going in the future, is that they have to move towards their strengths. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Let's see
exactly.
here. So then also we've got, we mentioned the game library. That's also important. Another, I think, important thing that you don't see too much you don't see it from online places other than, say, like eBay, is used games. Another store owner that we know from the Wisconsin area has given a bunch of seminars at a bunch of different events. I think Reno, he's done it at the thing we're going to in a couple of weeks, and also at other events we've been at, like the distributor conference that we went to in Madison a couple of times. He's given this talk about how to sell used games at your store and how to make it as easy and like low impact as possible. You basically you need a little bit of time and you need a shrink wrap machine, and that's about it. And he has like it all laid out, and it's like a free PDF that you can get from him or whatever and all that kind of stuff. His name is Brian. I forget his last name, but he's from a game store. Actually, I think they have a couple now.
Winters?
Maybe. Yeah, it might be Winters. Brian Winters. That sounds right. Yeah. But it's a game store called I'm Bored, and it's in Madison area, Wisconsin. It's not in Madison proper, I don't think. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. And so and I was in one of those seminars, and I could tell all of the retailers that were in that seminar were all like, oh, this is, and we're like writing down a lot of notes because they were like, oh, this would be useful. And it's a concept of basically you bringing in a game that you're not interested in anymore. And then you go through and, okay, it looks like all the parts are here and all this kind of stuff. And then we shrink wrap it, and then you get store credit, and then people come and buy it, and you have a little section, and this is where the used games go and all that kind of stuff. And he had like ideas on how long they get to sit there and all this different stuff. And, that kind of thing, like being able to go and buy a game that you've been interested in for a while, but you don't necessarily want to pay full price, buying a used version of it, especially with board games, when so many people have so many board games, and they maybe play them a couple of times, which we've talked about also here on the podcast in the past. I think that's also super important. Again, the one downside, I think, for a lot of these ideas is that they do take time. And like I said, in a lot of the situations, the store owner may not have the time, but they need to figure out how to find that time to really make it so that they can still compete against the online, because the online has got, discounts and, generally always in stock and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is kind of tough.
Right. Yeah. So I think, the thing is that brick and mortar stores, need to have some, besides catering, they definitely have to have a reason to pick them over online ordering. I mean, online ordering, like right now, it's freezing outside, the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
It's really tempting for me just to order online and have someone deliver to me, my stuff versus going out into the cold.
Right. but convenience of being able to, like, if you're painting something, or or you need new dice for whatever reason. I mean, sometimes you just need new dice, and the ability to go to the store, grab it, and come back and be right, back on track right away is super nice. 2 days free shipping is great in some situations, but then sometimes, like I said, if it's a Saturday afternoon and you're working on a model, for example, and you run out of white paint or glue or whatever,
Right.
it's really convenient to be able to hop to the store, grab something, and come back. So yeah, that's one of the big benefits of stores and the convenience, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's been many times where running down is a lot nicer than having to like stop everything and wait 2 days and then
Hmm.
hope that you get the right thing. Being able to actually like see it too. There's some times where I'm like I don't know, ordering paint online is still not like sets maybe, but ordering a specific like one color, um, I
Yeah, if
I,
you're
I
trying to
kind of
match
want to see
something,
it.
especially.
Yeah, or just kind
Yeah.
of go like, oh, is that the kind of tone I want, or I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Like, again, if you're ordering like a set of paints where you're going to get a bunch of stuff, that's a different story maybe. But yeah, definitely, it's a situation where you're like, well, this I need a one color that matches this other color or gets close or something like that, and that is very convenient. And other benefits I think that the stores need as well, besides just straight up convenience, which is a big benefit in my opinion. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily a benefit, but having, they need to keep the store clean and organized and the bathrooms
Mm,
clean and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, good lighting too. Like
Yeah, I
if
know that's
it,
true.
if you can't really see, or you have kind of like not even like the like old man squint, but just like you're like,
Hmm.
oh, it's like everything's kind of like a weird yellow, and when I get home, everything looks completely different. That
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
help, but nice bright colors. I know like one of our local stores, they just redid some of their shelving that gave stuff more room, and
Hmm.
it's easier to kind of pick stuff out versus kind of more of the old traditional shelves.
Yeah. Like the old kind of game store that just seems like a club that people sort of kind of hang out at, and
Hmm.
it's sort of a just a kind of a bit of a mess or whatever. Like, you're seeing less and less of that, just
Right.
because people are. It used to be that, well, I want to buy a game and they're the only game in town. Well, they're not anymore, and that's the thing. So the benefits of convenience, cleanliness, nice lighting, good place to
Hmm.
play, all that kind of stuff, knowledgeable staff, like
Oh
that's
yeah.
also super helpful. You
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to ask questions,
Hmm.
even if they don't know exactly, like usually, like sometimes they'll have more than one staff member, and they each kind of
Sure.
have their own specialty, or
Hmm.
they'll maybe look it up for you, like as far as like asking somebody else, or or
Yeah.
they might just go, well, I haven't used that specific line, but here's what I'm hearing from other customers. Yeah, we're selling a lot of that lately. So
It's just really helpful to be able to, like, walk into a store and be like, so I've got a gaming group that's like 5 people and we're looking for co-op games, because if we have adversarial games, somebody gets angry. And so we always need to
right.
play co-op stuff. And then
Yeah,
having the
Barry's
store owner
still in the
or
hospital.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But having like the store owner or the employee or whatever go, oh yeah, well, have you looked at this one and this one and this one, like that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
is really helpful, because again, like the online places, you can do a bunch of research online and maybe find some lists and different things like that,
Yeah,
or videos. But sometimes you just walk into a store because you're kind of interested in the game and you don't want to sit there and pull your phone out and try to do a bunch of googling, and you just want to ask a question.
yeah.
And
Well,
again, if
reviews are. I don't know about you, but like the last like
Mhm.
year or two, like reviews, online reviews seem to be like not. I'm not talking about like the individual persons, but like Amazon reviews or Walmart or any
Oh
like
yeah,
those are so sketchy, or just so like it's all one or five stars that you're like, I have no idea. I have
yeah,
no idea if
yeah.
this is going to be just the worst decision I ever made in my life, or this is the best decision I ever made in my life. And
I don't know necessarily about game companies or publishers and things like that, but I know there's a lot in the tech world. There's a lot of like, hey, if you give us a 5-star review on Amazon, we'll give you $10 off your next purchase, and a lot of that kind of
yeah,
junk.
right.
And so, yeah, so that with those types of reviews can be, well, but it's. I think that, yeah, it's also a good time to be able to ask a employee, owner, or whatever of a game store, like, hey, what's popular within board gaming that maybe I haven't heard of, and stuff like that. I mean, just
Hmm.
being able to do those things quickly is really actually quite useful. Um, And then, also going, if you're going to go there and play, whether you're going to sit and play an RPG with a bunch of people, like you getting into a new group, or maybe you're playing board games or you're playing Magic or whatever, the stores are going to, it makes a ton of sense. And I don't think I've come across a store in a while that hasn't had other revenue streams like snacks and soda. Like if you're going to be there for a good while, you're going to want something to eat or drink. And sometimes they even go as far as to have like magazines and comics and stuff like that. Game cafes. So game cafes kind of seemed like they were a bit of the future for a while, didn't they?
Yeah, I kind of felt like, oh, yeah, if you don't have a game cafe, like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. But
Um,
I think that COVID sort of messed with that pretty well.
oh yeah, definitely. But even before COVID, I felt like I was hearing like, yeah, we tried it, but it it was really good for like the first couple of months, and then slowly, like the novelty, I think, wore off, and then
I
you
think it's
know,
a ton of work, and you have to be a good sized store to make it like, because like,
hmm
we're friends with John Caspian, who works at the Gigabytes Cafe down in Marietta, Georgia, and they're a massive store. It's like, I don't know,
hmm
9 or 10,000 square foot store. So for them having a cafe attached as well makes total sense. And you get the same thing with like, if you look at Warhammer World over in Nottingham, where Games Workshop has their
hmm
big giant store and like play area. They also have Bugman's Pub or whatever it's called, where you can go in there, you get coffee and snacks, and I think even beer and stuff. And so, there's people that are still doing it, but over the pandemic, if it was like, I feel like if it was a restaurant first that had a little bit of board gaming and stuff attached to it, I
yeah,
think that was a little bit harder. Having a store that's got snacks is great, but then if
hmm
you start going kind of a more high end or fancy snacks, then now you're having to keep not just inventory of games popular, but also inventory of food, and food will spoil before a board game will, and there's all
right,
that.
yeah,
So
health and
yeah,
yeah, quality
maybe
and
that'll all come back to some degree over time. We'll see,
hmm
but I think that was definitely a struggle via COVID. A lot of stores definitely had had struggles with lockdown and COVID and things like that. But a lot of these stores kind of getting into the more like, well, what are the real, more futuristic almost kind of things
hmm
that stores can do. And I don't know that this is necessarily futuristic. I mean, Lord knows the internet's been around for a while, but even stores concerning themselves with online sales. Sometimes product sits on your
mm,
shelf for a long time, and eventually you need to be able to throw it up on eBay or maybe try to sell it through your website. But curbside pickup, talking about COVID again, that's also a big deal. If someone can go
right,
to your website, buy a thing and say, I'll be by in an hour to pick it up or whatever, and you just, there you go. A lot of stores were definitely kind of moving. The more popular ones, the more ones that
successful, yeah.
successful is the word I was looking for. Really, yeah, the ones that were more successful were heading in that direction more, and I
Yeah.
think
Well,
it's
and
kind of
I like it, especially when there's more than one location. Like it seems like, yeah, at least around here, we've got
mm-hmm.
ones that have like, two or three locations. Especially if
Yep.
they have some of those niche stuff that they just carry. Well, they've got like one of from 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being able to see that and like, oh, the location across town that I don't normally go to because it's on the other side of town and it's not my closest one
Mm-hmm.
has this, that I was looking
Yeah.
for, or
No,
or
absolutely.
popular, or popular game, like popular game that, oh, they sold all the copies here, but I can go get this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good way to compete with the online sellers is to be your own online seller, but with the benefit that a person can go and take a look through your inventory and be like, oh, geez, I can just go over and buy that now. You know what I mean? And pick it
Mm,
up and have it. Because again, that kind of, sort of quick, impulse buy is still a big thing, specifically in gaming, definitely. And so, yeah, I think that having, online sales, curbside pickup, I know for some stores it's a bit of a hassle or a bit of a struggle to get that technology kind of figured out, but there are definitely companies out there that will work with you on those types of things. Maybe that's
mhm,
part of your point of sale. I know that one of our local stores is building their website with Square, which is their kind of like their register software that they're using.
mhm, yep.
But yeah, there's a lot of different options there.
Oh yeah, like if
Um,
one of ours just has like index cards. I mean, so they're
yeah,
very low
for
tech
their
on
like
it, but
loyalty program. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
it works. So I mean, you don't have to feel like, oh, great. So you want me to go spend $10,000 on a new software system to go
Hmm.
do this thing? Well, that's
Hmm.
that's going to take too long, and too much money to do. And then you'd be like, no, you could just start recording right then, or maybe it's just a single purchase or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Other kind of things that have been talked about as the future of gaming stores for a while that we still don't really see too much, but we might. Print on demand. Like when print on demand first started getting popular in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were a lot of store owners that are like, wait, so you're going to be able to sell a printed book to people directly online and you don't have to go through distribution and all that kind of stuff. And that is troublesome to, to store owners just to a degree.
Yeah.
Generally, it's because of the size of the company very frequently. Like, me and Vince, our game is print on demand because we just don't want to carry. We're not big, so we can't carry like a big inventory and work with distribution and all that stuff. So print on demand works with us, but we have basically a simple form that people can fill out, and then they can buy copies at a discount to have in their store. So we've got like a retailer portal. But not everybody can do that. But the idea was for a while, well, what if we make some sort of print-on-demand machine where these books could get printed at your local game store?
Right, because printers are a pain in the butt. So if you buy the PDF and print it yourself, that's going to suck. Kinko's and all this stuff.
We've not seen it too much, unfortunately. Well, I mean, it might eventually. If somebody makes, like if Xerox or somebody makes a machine that could like literally print and bind like a book all internally and then just spit it out, it would be awesome to be able to get a printed PDF or a print on demand version, working with one of the big print on demand companies. And instead of having to get it printed and shipped from wherever, just go pick it up at your local game store.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it'd be fine for the game store. I'm just saying like the actual individuals are not going to ever pay for that or want to like learn how to use it and all that stuff. So if that kind of thing sounds way better. Like, especially like look at right now, like if you're in a different country than the company that's, selling you the stuff, that the shipping sucks.
Oh,
it costs a lot,
Yeah. I mean, even, like with us, with our game, the facilities that print it are in the US and the UK. But if you're in Asia, you're in whatever, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, I guess is what I meant to say. It's a considerable shipping thing. But if it was simple enough that a company like One Bookshelf, which is the company that we go through for, selling our stuff, Drive Through RPG, other companies like that are all under that same umbrella. If they had these machines that they could just start dropping into stores, or the store could lease it or something like that. And then you just walk into the store and you're like, hey, I bought this book, this print on demand book off of One Bookshelf, and I'm getting it printed here. And then you're like, oh yeah, no, it started printing 20 minutes ago and it's ready to go. Boom, there you go. Like that'd be great. But we're not there technology wise yet, as it turns out. And I don't know if we will, because when the people were originally talking about this concept, I remember going to a seminar about this at Gen Con way back in the early 2000s. There were no iPads yet. So now there's a lot of folks out there that are like, well, I could get this printed, but I could also just look at it on my iPad, which I carry around anyway, and it's fine. Now, I will admit, I was very surprised how many people bought print versions of our game in comparison to the PDFs. But so there was a lot. I was really surprised. There's a lot of people that did, but there's also a lot of people out there who are either like, I'll either print it myself or I'll just look at it on my iPad. I have a lot of stuff on my iPad because I just find it very convenient to be able to carry around 50 different rules books in one little thin thing. But so print on demand in stores, I don't know. We'll see. Now, that all being said, there is a company called Bits and Mortar that's online, and they work with like 150 different publishers right now, something like that.
Holy cow.
So so if it's the opposite way around. This is what happens. You go into your local game store and you buy a copy of, let's say, Cyberpunk Red.
Yep.
And then because Artel Saurian is working with Bits and Mortar, there's some sort of a code you might get or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you also get a free PDF of the book as well. So you can buy it not through like directly online. You go into a store and you go, oh, this is cool. Oh, it's got a Bits and Mortar code in it. Cool. And you buy it, you take it home, you punch in the thing, and now you have the PDF version as well. And that's a cool thing.
Yeah, because I still like the physical book. But then if I'm like traveling, then I usually don't want to bring the physical book. So, and I don't really want to buy it a second time.
Well, think about
So
searchability too. Like there's
yeah,
times when like, yeah, the physical book is great, but I just want to do a control F search for,
right.
this
Yeah,
keyword or whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
Especially
Oh,
in bigger
like what
books.
was that rule again? Yeah. Oh, that's on page
Hmm.
131. Okay, that's what
Right.
that was. Yep.
Exactly. So yeah, that's I think a really cool thing. Bits and mortar. I've heard of them in the past, and when I was doing research for this episode, I came across them again. And so that's like I said, it's not some sort of machine that you pick up, print on demand copies from. It's kind of the other way around. You bought this at a brick and mortar store.
Right.
Now you also get the PDF included, which is very cool.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I mean, they started doing that with movies for a while, like before it
mhm.
became common to stream. Was like
Oh, you
I
bought the
never,
Blu-ray and you got a
yeah, but
digital version
you
too.
got the
Yeah.
digital version too, which made me watch more of the digital versions, and I really like that, especially when I knew I was going on a trip or something. Like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, I can get this movie and watch the digital right away, and then I've got the Blu-ray at home when I want to watch it at home.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, 3D printing in-house at the game store.
Ooh,
I have been told that this does happen at some game
hmm.
stores. What do you think? Like, because you're the much more
Yeah,
3D printer person than me.
I think as time like the speed and the quality improve, like it used to take like a day to print a miniature.
Hmm.
Now with like resin printers or some of the newer even the FDM ones with the right settings and people testing stuff and tweaking settings and everything else, you can get stuff
Hmm.
printed like 20 minutes. As that
Sure.
stuff becomes faster and faster, and now you're seeing like multicolors and
Hmm.
everything else. I don't I would find it shocking if that doesn't happen more often.
I
Um,
mean, that's the thing is that like the store is like, yeah, but we want you to buy this physical product, but the barn door has been opened and STLs are out there and
mhm,
people are, and I'm not even talking about pirated STLs. I'm just being like people go into my mini factory and finding like a really cool thing that they've never seen a miniature for this ever in their life. You know what I mean?
right.
And awesome, but I don't have a printer, but I really want this one miniature for my thing. If you could just go to your local shop and be like, hey, I have this thing on a thumb drive, or I'll email it to you and they print it and sell it to you, that's another revenue stream. Now,
Yeah. Well,
admittedly,
think about like I just saw they just announced the dates for free RPG days coming back.
mhm, yep,
Now, traditionally, like a free RPG day, you get like a couple of like uh RPGs and like
like
a maybe
modules and stuff.
yeah, maybe a like a six-sider or
Mhm.
something. Now, what if you're like, oh, you could choose one of these 10 models and you get that one, each person gets one printed.
Mhm, mhm.
And the
Yeah,
store doesn't have to store up, doesn't have to buy so many of each one.
right.
They just
If
have
you
the
register
materials.
for whatever that event is that has an included for, model, then you register ahead of time, and it's kind of like when you go to a wedding and you pick like
Yeah.
what your meal's going to be ahead of time.
Hmm.
So you show up and they've already got your entire party. They're all printed out for everybody who's going to be playing with you, and then boom, and then you take that model home with you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
great. The trick is that very probably either the store owner or somebody at the store is already going to have to be pretty heavy into 3D printing
Right.
to have that facility set up and make it profitable at this day and age. But you're right, as these machines get easier and easier to use, because as it is right now, resin is probably you. Would you say that resin is easier to use than FDM?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right,
It's almost plug and play.
right.
It's easier than I think most regular printers are at this point.
Like paper printers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had less issues with my resin printer than I have with my regular printer.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So yeah, as that gets even easier and it becomes simpler, it's going to be something that I think that game stores would be again, game stores would be another revenue stream for them, and they would be leaving money on the table to some degree if they
Hmm.
have the person power to be able to like run that machine or whatever the
Right.
deal is.
Well,
Because
think of
then,
we were just talking about like niche games
hmm, hmm,
and stuff like that, and then all the high quality like miniatures that are coming out. It's like I used to buy like whenever I saw a cool miniature, I would buy it.
hmm.
Now I can't do that because there's more cool looking miniatures than I have money for.
Sure, sure, oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, no, I
So
mean just like STLs, you mean, or you mean in
yeah, yeah,
general?
SCLs, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
it's being able to just have those on demand and not take up store space. Like they don't have to go, if your game, like your miniatures game, doesn't take up a whole half aisle, and it's just files that people can print, saving store space and basically square footage space makes the profit margin needed less.
Well, look as an example, look at One Page Rules. So One Page Rules, for those of you who haven't heard of it, is a company that makes a bunch of different PDFs and whatnot of games that they're not knockoffs exactly of like Warhammer style games, but they are designed to be a different kind of simpler rule set that you could play with your current Warhammer models. So if Age of Sigmar is too much for you, well, they've got Age of Fantasy, and then you can download that, whatever. But they're also now making STLs, and they're selling those as well. So if you don't have models, well, here's a bunch of STL models. So think about how nice it would be to be able to just go into your local store and say, I want a printed copy of the most recent version of, Age of Fantasy, and I want these 12 models from their line. And they go, okay, it's going to cost this much. And you're like, cool. And whether you did it online and then went to pick it up, or whether you did it and then came back and picked it up, like whatever, like that kind of thing, and there's like literally no inventory sitting there. So it's not taking up tons of space, but you're still able to, as the store owner, get benefit from a person buying this kind of niche game, but you didn't have to keep it on the shelves and have it take up your space. I mean, that kind of thing, that's like the future that I would love to see for gaming stores. Because sure, if I have a printer and I have a 3D printer and all that kind of stuff, I could do the same thing here at home. But there's a benefit, I think, to not having to necessarily personally have that stuff, If I don't have to have an actual paper printer in my house, yeah, exactly. I would love to get rid of every paper printer in my house.
Well, for me, doing a lot of 3D printing, I'm already chasing the dragon of like, oh, now I can get 8K resolution and
exactly. Oh yeah,
stuff like that. Like, oh, so it's like, so you can get nicer stuff, better material. Yeah,
because as a store, you could sell the 4K printer to somebody who's interested in buying it used, and then buy the 8K printer, that kind of thing, and then have a better, product that you could sell to your people.
Or they just use it for older STLs or smaller STLs, or they charge different prices for the quality, Well, and also think one of the things when they started doing the whole legacy games was like, oh, by the time you're done, you've kind of have customized the game for yourself.
Like Risk Legacy and stuff like that.
Yeah, right from day one, like, all of a sudden, my character, I got to choose some of the stuff that's in my game for components. Yeah, so I have a custom game right from the start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Like that kind of stuff, I think I definitely could see happening, in the future at your local game store to get because again, yeah, sure, you could do all this at home. You could print your own game, or you could keep it on your iPad. You could print your own miniatures and all that stuff. But then you got to have an iPad or paper printer or 3D printer and all that kind of stuff. And we know just from, dealing with a lot of gamers that there's more and more of people getting that stuff every day, but it's still a very small percentage of the overall gaming audience. And it is still a pain, to work with to some degree.
A lot of the 3D printers remind me kind of like exercise equipment. Like everybody buys them with very good intentions.
Sure, you just hang your clothes on them?
95% of them are just expensive coat hangers, or they get resold to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that type of stuff I think is definitely something that that your stores in the future are going to probably start thinking about. Your ones that are a little bit more, I think, proactive. Crowdfunding product, there's a lot of different Kickstarters and things like that out there that have retail levels, and stores, and it doesn't work with obviously everything, but I think a lot of stores are starting to pay more attention to those retail things, because then they know that they can sell those.
Especially the hot games. Yeah, the games that you're like, this got funded in like 30 seconds. Especially like the ones that are like, you're like, okay, that company didn't need to kickstart that.
Right, exactly. They're a big enough company, they could have just sold it, but they did it this way, and da-da-da.
But at the same time, the deal that you're getting, because they're going to hold your money for a year, and the amount of stretch goals, like that sounds really nice, but I don't have the money to do it right now because I just found out about it, and there's only 10 days left.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'm going to have to miss this because I can't afford it right now. But if I know that my friendly local game store is most likely going to get copies of this that I can then reserve, that's different.
We've got a local game store that's done that quite frequently. They've picked up like retailer levels of Kickstarter stuff, knowing that they've got people, between their two stores that are definitely going to be interested in it. And it's, the benefit for the store is that you get to sell that stuff before it goes to full blown retail in many situations.
Right.
Now, admittedly, there are times when, the game comes out at retail at the exact same time that it actually gets into Kickstarter or backers' hands. And that's not ideal, obviously, because Kickstarter, or sometimes even it hits retail
It's half the reverse,
yeah, exactly. And Kickstarter backers get angry about that, but that's more the company's problem, not
right.
So
right,
there's
usually there's a stretch goals or early bird rewards and stuff like that that usually help make up for that. So
yeah, absolutely. And then other things that the gaming stores, I think, in the future need to like really kind of grab onto, Discord or some other kind of like non-Facebook communication. I mean, there's plenty of companies out there. There's plenty of like game stores that have got a Facebook page, obviously, but Facebook's got its issues. And
let my friendly local game store, like the fact that they finally are responding to their email, is so nice because I don't know. I hate calling stores. I just despise it. I don't know. There's as I get older or less used to calling people, I don't like calling.
I think that generally people don't like calling as much as they used to on the phone. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to sit and talk to a family member or a friend, calling on the phone or even calling on some other kind of audio internet thing, Discord chat, whatever, Google chat, whatever, that's fine. People still like audio. Obviously you're listening to a podcast right now. That's great. But to like call and bug somebody, even though it's a customer, like you're a customer in their store, but like it'd be easier sometimes just to be able to text or send a message or whatever and be like, hey, do you guys have this in stock, or when are you getting this, or whatever.
Well, versus... I feel horrible just calling them up, like, because right now store hours are crazy because staffing levels and holidays and pandemic, and I have 5,000 reasons why their Google, their posted hours might be different. But calling just feels like they're gonna have to like probably break away from a customer to go answer the phone for me to go, hey, what time do you guys close tonight?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Where if I could just like throw it onto like Facebook Messenger or something, or that somebody else could be like, oh, hey, they just said that they're open till 10 tonight. Or
well, sure, if your store's got a Discord and the person knows about it or whatever, that somebody else in the Discord might even be like, oh yeah, normally they're open till 10, but tonight they're open till 11 because there's a new expansion for like Magic or whatever.
Yeah, like are they? Do you know if they're doing the new Magic opening tonight? Like, yep, they're there. I'm there right now. Like, yeah, there's still 3 spots left open. Like.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, getting that kind of stuff going, I think, is super important.
Well, and being able to do it from work too, right? Like if you're in an office and having to call on the phone, or not even in the office, if you're, maybe you work, on construction or something else. But texting on a break is a lot easier, or typing it up, and you can get the response back.
Absolutely. I think one of the last kind of, and again, I'm saying futuristic here, but think of it in air quotes, if you would, because there are actually some places that are already doing this, but live streaming capabilities.
Okay.
Like being able to, your store and you're streaming games on Twitch, whatever they might be. It might be unboxings of new games that have come out. And then other times you stream and you're showing a demo of a new game, or maybe me and a friend come into the store and they're like, hey, do you guys want to play your miniatures game on the live stream? And, we'll interact with people and stuff like that. Yeah. Like being able to have that kind of setup. I mean, obviously it takes a little bit of work.
Yeah, classes would be nice.
Oh yeah. That's a great point too. Yeah.
There's times when I'm like, oh, that'd be really good, but they're doing the paint and take on Tuesday night. But if I could like go in and like pay $10 to get the kit ahead of time, and then take it home, and then I can watch the stream back. I wouldn't get the interactivity, or maybe I can watch it interactively, but I'm just at home, so I can still ask questions.
Take care of your children, or you're not feeling well, or whatever the deal is. Yeah, there's lots of reasons
why. There's a bad snowstorm coming in. We don't have to cancel the event. We're just going to do it virtually.
Yeah. Or you're not feeling well, and you decided to stay home and not, that's also nice. Yeah, that's more people should do that sometimes. Anyway, but the live streaming stuff, like it takes a little bit of work, but you are seeing more and more companies that are starting to make devices. I bought a device about a month ago or whatever that is like basically like a big Android tablet, but you can plug like 3 different HDMI things into it and a webcam and all kinds of stuff, and you can stream from it and all this jazz, and it doesn't take like an entire dedicated PC and a bunch of other stuff. And so that kind of thing, like having stores that are trying to expand their online presence, just both to let people in their local area know that they're out there, but also to get other people involved. And then if you're a store, like I said before, that's also doing some online sales and selling stuff, I mean, that's also a benefit as well. So creating content like that, whether it's live streaming, the live streaming I think is probably the easiest, because once you're done, you're done. There's no like when we get done with this podcast, I got to edit it and do all that stuff. When I get done making a video, I got to sit down and then I edit it and upload it and go through all that stuff. When I get done with a live stream, I turn off all the lights and I go upstairs and I talk to my wife and whatever. It's like it's ready to go. And so it's the same type of thing. You don't have that back end, I got to do a bunch of work now on top of
because the bar's a little bit lower, and now with devices being a little bit like, I mean, if you're 10 years ago, if you were live streaming, probably it would look horrible and your voice would sound horrible. Now you can usually do a pretty good job to meet people's expectations.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can do a pretty easy, without too much work, you can get decent audio, you can have decent light, you can have decent, it's maybe not 4K, but it's generally at least HD, 1080, that kind of stuff. So, the trick is that, it's easy to buy games online as a consumer. It's real simple to just go, let's go on Amazon or whatever, boop, 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 done. Okay, great. And some publishers do seem to either prefer to work direct with consumers. You're starting to see more publishers are starting to head in that direction, where they're just like, why don't we just sell direct to these consumers? And that's kind of a bummer. But sometimes they're also small enough that they have to. Like that was the situation, like I said, with us and our game, is that we're selling direct to consumers. But again, we're also trying to get stores involved as well. So stores, therefore, really need some very specific benefits to bring people into their location. And like the stuff that we've mentioned above, some of it being a little bit more just organizational and cleanliness and having stuff in stock. And then other things are slightly more futuristic, like print on demand and 3D printing in-house and all that stuff. But these are the things that your tabletop, your friendly local game store is going to have to probably think about very much if they want to be around in the future. Yeah. Well, thanks again for listening to this episode of the GameFor Podcast. If you've got questions or comments and you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below. If you're listening via your favorite podcast player or just aren't into the whole YouTube comment section thing, then you can feel free to reach out to us via email at podcast@iamgamefor.com. You can also keep up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check out our website at www.iamgamefor.com. See, the first one I did just right. The second one I'm screwing up. That is www.iamgamefor.com. Thanks.